Matthew 28, 18 to 20 says, "And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to follow all that I commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." This is the mission of the church. And this is what, as Christians, this is what we are about. Making disciples, preaching the gospel, and keeping the commandments of the Lord. Today, I am not going to be preaching a sermon like I normally would. Instead, I'm going to give you a report about my trip to Panama. But to be honest, I don't really want to tell you about the work that students and the teachers at the school in Panama. So I'm going to kind of transition from my trip to work that's being done by the students and the teachers at the school this morning. This picture was taken last year when I was in Panama. Last year, Britton was with me, and Jorge was with us. Places we saw a lot of things. When we were in Panama last year, this year was very different. This year, once I got to the camp, I never. By the way, I don't know. I should have said this, I guess. 2 weeks ago, and I was teaching at the Bible School of the Americas in Panama. So the Bible School of the Americas is a preacher's training school. It's like Bear Valley. And so I teach every year. And so 2 weeks ago, I was there at the 1st and 2nd Samuel. What was different this year was that while I was there, I never left. I stayed on campus the whole week. Why is that? This is why I stayed on campus the whole week. People are protesting. He is completely shut down right now, the protesters. So, the government of Panama made some kind of a deal with Canada, allowing the Canadians to come in and mine in the country of Panama. For some reason, all the Panamanians got an illegal deal. So they are protesting in the streets. To protest. But there are also opportunity to loot and to rob and to create violence in the streets. And so the entire city of Panama City is been shut down for 3 weeks. All the businesses are closed. All the schools are closed. No one is going out anywhere unless they're going out to protest or to riot or to loot. And so it was not safe for me to be off-campus ground. So I did not go anywhere off the campus. So this is Francisco. Francisco is one of the teachers at the school. Francisco is the man who picks me up at the airport when I get there, and at the end of the week, he takes me back to the airport and drops me off, and Francisco keeps me safe. What normally happens is when Francisco picks me up is he takes me to a grocery store, and I buy my groceries for the week. And so when I got there, Francisco picked me up, and we went to the grocery store only to discover that the grocery store was closed. Not only was it closed, but there are these metal doors that come down out of the ceiling. Every door had been brought down and was locked. And those doors covered every wall, every window, every door, every entrance to the store. And the store was shut like that to protect it from looters and violence and everything that's going on in Panama City right now. So Francisco says, well, I know of another store. Let's go there. So he takes me to a different store. This was a store I had never been to before. This store was smaller than the one I normally go to. It did not have all the options of foods that I normally would have available to buy. And when I got to this other store, we discovered that the store was half sold out of product. It was half sold out of product because everyone is buying groceries. But because of the protesting that's going on, trucks are not able to get to the grocery stores to replenish the stocks. So once the product is sold, it's gone. That's it. There's nothing left. And so the options for me, what am I going to buy for the week, were very limited. So here's what I bought at the grocery store. I was able to get some ground beef. I was able to get tortillas. I was able to get hamburger buns, and I was able to get cheese. So what did I eat all week? That's it. I ate tacos for lunch and cheeseburgers for dinner all week, and that was it. So I don't mind. If I had to choose only 2 food items to eat for a week, tacos and cheeseburgers would probably be at the top of my list, so I was satisfied with that. However, I was concerned that I did not have enough food to get through the week. I'm going to have to ration my food and stretch it out so that I could actually eat every day of the week. I also bought a bag of M&Ms because on Halloween I wanted some candy. So I had that. Here's a picture of the apartment that I stayed in, if you're wondering what the apartment is like. There's an apartment on campus where visiting teachers like myself come and stay. So this is a picture of the apartment. By the way, this is a 2-year preacher training school, and you have students who come to the school from countries all over Central and South America. They come, married couples with children, and so there are 2 buildings that are just apartments for student housing. And the apartment that they keep for visiting teachers who come is just part of that. So my neighbors, are students in the school, and their apartments look basically the same as this. That's the bed that I slept on for the week. And these are my students. I had about 30 students in the class. I actually had about 36 students in the class. Because the schools were shut down, because of the protesting and stuff, there were children of the students in my class who came to my class. They couldn't go to their school, so they came to the Bible School of the Americas, and they studied the book of Samuel with us. So that was great. We had about 36 people in the class last week. You may be wondering what my schedule is like when I'm in Panama. You may not. I don't know, but I'm going to tell you either way. I did watch quite a few movies on my trip, and so I have a few people I sent a text to. Here are the movies I watched while I was in Panama. If you received that text, you might think, this guy's not doing any work at all. All he's doing is watching movies. Well, I did watch 5 movies in transit to and from Panama, so that made up the bulk of the movies I watched. But what is my schedule like in Panama? I actually worked approximately from 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. every day while I was there. I was working. So I was preparing my lessons for the day. I was teaching. I was grading tests, or I was preaching. And so that's what my day is like. It's a long day. It's a 12-hour day of pretty much just work, solid work. But I enjoy it. I love it. The students meet at 7:30 in the morning. They have a devotional every morning. The students run that devotional, so every day there's a different student who is assigned to lead singing, a different student who is assigned to lead prayers, and a different student who is assigned to preach. And those assignments rotate. And so every student is going to do everything multiple times, over the course of their time at the school. Our school classes start at 8 a.m., and we go till 3 p.m. approximately. So from 8 to 3, we're in class, and we do have a break for lunch. I want to tell you about Luis. You can see this boy in the blue shirt in the middle with his thumbs up. That's Luis. He's 11 years old. Luis is the son of some of the students in the school. So Luis, being 11 years old, he was not able to go to school last week because of the protests. And so instead of going to school, he came to my Bible class. I would ask someone to read. Someone please read this scripture. Luis started reading. And Luis was so eloquent reading the scriptures. I was very impressed for an 11-year-old. I stopped and I'm like, you are a great reader of the scriptures. And there was an adult in the classroom. He said, he's a better reader than half of us in here. And I believe it was true. He was a very smart, intelligent kid. So Luis, actually, I gave them tests. Every day they took a test, and so there were 4 tests, and there was a total of 110 questions on the test. And Luis took the tests. So did the other kids who were in the class. I gave them all tests. They all took the tests. I graded their tests too. But Luis did very well on my test, just as good as the adults who were in the class. Luis is a very smart kid. He knows how to think abstractly, and he knows how to connect the dots. So a lot of the students in the school, they think in a very linear way. Everything is black and white to them. They know the facts of the text, but sometimes they don't know how to think theologically. They don't know how to rise above the facts of the text to see connections and implications that go beyond just the raw facts. So, for example, I asked the question, why does Jonathan give David his royal robes? And Luis answers, because he loved David. And that's what the text says. Jonathan loved David and he gave him his clothes. And I said, yes, that is why. He did it because he loves David. But what does the gesture of Jonathan giving his royal robes to David symbolize? And everyone was thinking about it. I don't know. What does that symbolize? And then I said, well, who is Jonathan? And it was Luis who answers, this 11-year-old boy, and he says, well, Jonathan is Saul's son. So he's the prince of Israel. And I said, yes, he is the prince of Israel. So he's giving David his royal robes. What does that represent? And it was Luis who says, David is going to be king. Jonathan is handing the kingdom, the throne, to David. And I'm like, yes, you can see that. You know, this Luis is going to be a great leader in the church. He's going to do great things for the kingdom of God. I was super impressed with Luis. All right, this is Jonathan. Jonathan is also 11 years old. On Sunday, Jonathan was hanging out in front of my apartment. He kind of wanted to come in and meet me and see what was going on, so I let him in. I asked him, do you play the guitar? He said, yes. I said, okay. I handed him a guitar. There is a guitar in the apartment, too, so I can entertain myself. So I handed him the guitar. I said, play me something. So he played a D chord. And I'm like, okay, and that was it. So the teacher who was at school the week before I got there taught him how to play the D chord. So I said, okay, well, let me show you 2 other chords. I showed him C and G. So we played the guitar a little bit, and he left there knowing how to play D, C, and G. So I'm like, you could play 50% of the songs that exist with those 3 chords. So we worked on that. Then we watched Disney's Robin Hood together. So I enjoyed visiting with Jonathan. And that was one of the movies I said I watched, Disney's Robin Hood. All right. I did get invited over to this family's house for lunch on Thursday. The man in the bottom left is Simeon. He is one of the teachers at the school, and they're the Panamanian family. I was glad that they invited me over for lunch. What do Panamanians typically eat? This is what they fed me. That is chicken and rice, and then some kind of potato salad that had corn mixed in it. And that's what they fed me that day. I was glad to have that food because I was stretching my own food to be able to have food for the week, and that basically allowed me to realize, okay, I'm going to get through the week. I won't starve. I was also invited over to this family's house for dinner one night. So this is Azael and Deanna Lopez. And Luis, that's Luis in that picture. So Luis is their son, and that's their daughter. I don't remember her name, but she is 13 years old. And so they're a Panamanian family as well. So they invited me over for dinner and fed me. What do Panamanians eat? They eat chicken and rice. And those are lentils, not beans. I don't even know what a lentil is. What is a lentil? But chicken and rice and then something else. So that's what I ate while I was there. I was grateful to have that food as well. By the way, I'm going to go back because Azael and Deanna, they're graduating from the school. And they're going to be working in the church. And what Azael said is, he's like, preaching is fine. But what I really want to do is just evangelize. I just want to go throughout the neighborhoods, knock on doors, study the Bible with people, share the gospel with people, bring souls to Jesus. That's what Azael is passionate about. This couple, they're smart, and they're capable, and they're talented, but more importantly, they have a heart and a passion for sharing the gospel with people. God is going to use this family to do great things in the kingdom, and I'm excited for what they're going to do. This is Bismarck and Fabiola. They are graduating from the school in December, and Bismarck is going to be working with a church in Panama City. They're both super smart, by the way. Very highly intelligent people. I gave 4 tests with a total of 110 questions. Bismarck ended up getting 108 out of 110 possible points on the tests. So he only missed 2 questions. And I was glad that he missed a question at least, so that he didn't get a perfect week. But they're very talented people. Fabiola, I tell my students this, okay? It's a handwritten test. You got to answer it. You got to write out the answers by hand. Please write legibly, because I have to read your answers, okay? I need to be able to understand what you wrote. And people's handwritings, not just them, just people in general, sometimes you can't read someone's handwriting. Well, Fabiola's is like perfect penmanship. It's a typewriter could have typed it out. Her penmanship was beautiful, and it reminded me of Lily Nunley. She takes notes, and her penmanship is fantastic. And I thought, that's Lily. They're a great couple. They're going to do great things in the Lord's kingdom. They are doing great things right now, actually. This is a picture of Hector and Karen on the left and Herlin on the right. Hector and Karen are newlyweds. They're from Nicaragua, and this is their first year at the school. So they're going to be there for a whole other year, so I'll see them again next year when I go to Panama. They are very intelligent people, very kind people, and servants. They're going to do great things in the kingdom of God. So these are like extraordinary people who I interacted with, and I realized these are the kinds of people I want to be associated with. Hector and Karen are those people. This is a picture of me and Rebecca. Rebecca was a very caring, thoughtful person. So my throat was kind of hurting. I've been speaking for hours, and I needed water, and I kept drinking water. And so she saw that, and she brought me a cup of hot tea one day. She's like, "Here, you need this for your throat." I didn't ask. She just brought it to me and gave it to me. She saw a need, and she did something about it. Also, the next day, she showed up with throat lozenges for me. So she gave me some throat lozenges. Also, on the last day of school, she brought me a gift bag, and she said, "This is for your wife." And she said, "This is jewelry that I made myself personally." So I brought that home and gave that to Carrie, and it was like several earrings that she had made herself by hand. And so just a very thoughtful, caring person who sees a need and then does something about it. That's the kind of person she is. So she's a great Christian. Carlos. We met Carlos last year when we were in Panama. Carlos was the most impressive student last year that I saw. Carlos, right away, when we met him, I could see he's a servant. He's working. He's working behind the scenes. He's doing a lot of things for the church. Carlos was the technology guy for the church in Panama City. He was running the PowerPoints. He was doing the sound system. So we have Kirk Boone here at Parker. They have Carlos in Panama City. And so he's there, Kirk Boone. But even beyond that, he's a highly intelligent man, and he has the heart of a servant. So last year when we were there, on Tuesday night, the kids get together. I say kids, they're adults. The students get together, and they have a devotional every Tuesday night with preaching. And afterwards, Carlos had prepared this cauldron full of chicken fried rice, enough to feed like 50 people. And he just fed everyone after that devotional. He cooked it. He provided the food. He served it. bringing plates to people, bringing drinks to people. He did everything. And I was like, I'm very impressed with Carlos. We spent a lot of time with Carlos. Carlos is from Mexico. He was a nurse at a hospital in Mexico, but not just a nurse, but he was the head of the nursing department at the hospital. He was running things there for the hospital. I found out this year that Carlos has a master's degree in hospital management. And so he's studied, he's educated, he was making a lot of money. And he decided, you know what, I'm going to give up my career and go to this school in Panama to study the Bible and prepare myself to be a preacher. And his mom questioned him about that. Are you sure you want to do that? Because you've spent a lot of time and a lot of money, and you've worked very hard to get where you are. And Carlos said, yes, this is what I want to do. He said, what I do right now at the hospital is important because I'm saving people's lives. But what I want to do is save people's souls. And he's like, that's more important. And so he left his career in order to go to this school to prepare to become a preacher. While we were there at the school, the picture on the right, that's Carlos preaching his last sermon at the school. He said, this is my last sermon. He's graduating in December. This is my last sermon I'm going to preach here at this school. And he got very emotional about that. But he preached a very good sermon there at the school. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2 says, the things which you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust these to faithful people who will be able to teach others also. And this is a picture of those faithful people. This is why I go. Because these people have committed 2 years of their lives to studying the scriptures, to prepare themselves to go out and preach the gospel of Jesus. They've come from countries, from Mexico to Argentina. They've come to the school in Panama. And all they want to do is share the gospel of Jesus. And so I made a presentation about my trip to Panama to my Spanish classes at North Star Academy on Friday. And while I was making that presentation, one girl asked, she said, do they pay you to go to the school and teach? And I said, no, they don't pay me. And someone else asked, well, do they at least buy your plane ticket? And I said, no, they don't pay for my plane ticket either. And then someone else asked, well, why do you go? And I said, I go because I believe in these people and I believe in the work that they're doing. That's why I go. I wasn't talking to them about sharing the gospel like I am to you, but I did say I do believe in the work that's being done. That's why I go. This is a valuable work. Training preachers who will then go out into the world and preach the gospel to all creation so that souls might be saved. This is Raphael and his wife, Gabby, and Orvin, and a bag of Tostitos. Raphael and Gabby, we, the Parker Church of Christ, send money to Raphael every year. It's not a lot, but it's something. We support Raphael financially. So I want you to know about Raphael. I want you to know about who he is and what he does. Raphael was a student at the school. He graduated. He was so intelligent and he was such a hard worker that the faculty said, we got to keep Raphael here. So they hired him. Well, he has to raise support for his salary. They didn't hire him and be like, here, we're going to pay you this much money, you stay here. He raises his own support. But they said, we want you here, so you stay. And now Raphael is one of the teachers at the school. Raphael teaches Greek. He teaches many courses, but he's the Greek teacher there at the school. Raphael is bilingual. He speaks English and Spanish, and he is essential to what goes on at the Bible School of the Americas. There are 8 weeks out of the year when Americans come down to teach short courses in the school. I am one of those 8 teachers who teaches for one of those 8 weeks. But out of those 8 teachers, I'm the only one who speaks Spanish. So when I go down, I teach in Spanish. I don't need Raphael in my classroom. The other 7 teachers who go down, they're teaching in English, and Raphael is translating into Spanish. Raphael is an expert on the courses that those 7 other teachers teach, because every single year he's translating it into Spanish for the students. And he's writing the tests for those teachers, and he's grading the tests for those teachers. And so the work that Raphael does for the school is incredible. But even beyond that, Raphael has created a database of all the students who have graduated from the Bible School of the Americas, where they've gone, and what they're doing now. And so there's over 100 preachers that have gone out that he's got information about. He's contacted them all, and he's found out, where are you now? What are you doing? What is the work like? What is the church like where you are? Does the church have elders? How many members does the church have? What is your wife like? What are your children like? What are they involved in? What are the activities that your kids participate in? And what are your needs as a preacher? Like, what are the financial needs that you have? And so Raphael is instrumental in trying to raise support for the preachers who have gone off and now are doing the work of the Lord. I also want to tell you that this happened several years ago. Raphael was having a conversation with Jack Farber. Jack Farber said, if I could go anywhere in the world and plant a church, I would go to Uruguay. And Raphael said, why Uruguay? And Jack Farber said, because there are no churches of Christ in Uruguay. And that conversation planted a little seed in Raphael's heart. And he thought, that can't be true. How is it possible that there's a country where the church is not found? So Raphael did some research online, and he discovered that there is an Iglesia de Cristo in Montevideo, which is the capital city of Uruguay. So he contacted that church, and he said, I'm interested in knowing what the church is like in Uruguay. And so he started a dialogue with that church. And they said to Raphael, as far as we know, we are the only congregation of the church in the whole country of Uruguay. And they said to him, there used to be a congregation, and I'm going to show you this. There used to be a congregation in Salto. So Montevideo is at the bottom of this map, right in the middle. That's the capital city of Uruguay. If you go to the top of the map and go to the left, the green section, not the yellow section at the tip top, but the next section, the green section, that's the state of Salto. And on the far left is the town of Salto. So they said there used to be a church in Salto, but the preacher who was there got sick and died. And for 20 years, there's been no church in Salto. But they said there's one woman there. Her name is Clara. She's a faithful Christian. And she's been praying for 20 years that a preacher will come and plant the church in Salto. And Raphael heard that, and he thought, we have to go to Salto. We have to go plant the church there. We have to answer Clara's prayers. And so there was a man who came to the school, the Bible School of the Americas, to set up internet for the school. So he set up the internet. He's an American man. And he says to Raphael, he said, and I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but he says to Raphael, he's like, we need to go somewhere on a campaign. Where should we go? And Raphael said, we need to go to Salto, Uruguay. And the man said, okay, when do you want to go? And Raphael thought, well, he's just talking. He has no real intentions of going. But the man went back to the States, and about 3 weeks later, he contacted Raphael, and he's like, when do you want to go to Salto? And Raphael realized, oh, you're serious? So he said, let's go, at this time. We need to go. And so Raphael and this guy, they went to Montevideo, and they spent a week with the church there. And then they went to Salto, and they met Clara for the first time. A faithful Christian woman who has been praying for 20 years that a preacher would come to Salto and plant the church in Salto. Raphael thought, we've got to send someone to Salto. This has to be done. But who is going to go? Who can we send? And that's Carlos. of all the people who can go and do this work, like Carlos is the man. Carlos, I was so impressed with Carlos last year when we met him. I wanted to work with, I was like, whatever work Carlos is doing, I want to be a part of it. I want to be there. I'll be his number two, you know. I want to work with Carlos. And I can't think of a person more prepared to go to Salto and plant the church than Carlos. Carlos is going to be graduating from the school in December. He's going to go home to Mexico for a couple months, see his family, and then in March, he's going to Salto, Uruguay, to plant the church. This is the answer to Clara's prayers. Jack Farber had a conversation with Raphael, which planted a seed in Raphael's heart. One other man who came down to the school was just on fire for the Lord and said, we need to go somewhere and do something for the kingdom. Raphael remembered Jack's conversation, said, let's go to Salto. They went to Salto. They met Clara. They said, we've got to do something about this. Carlos is the man. They presented this to Carlos. Carlos said, absolutely, I want to go. So I went and talked to Carlos last week while I was there. And I said, Carlos, tell me about Uruguay. What are you going to do there? What's going on? He told me all about it. I said, what are your finances like? What do you need? He said, I have no idea. He's like, Raphael is trying to raise support for me. He's like, I haven't thought about my financial situation at all. So there is a church in Georgia who has agreed to sponsor Carlos. They're going to contribute financially to Carlos, but they're also accepting support, financial support. They'll collect it and send it to Carlos, make sure Carlos gets his support. But this is what Carlos said. He said, I don't care about the finances. He said, if I can work for the church and feed myself, that's all I need. If I can do the work and feed myself, I'll be happy. So Raphael talked with, okay, it looks different on my computer than it does on this screen. Raphael talked, all the lines were like in straight, even rows on my computer. Raphael talked with the church in Montevideo about what it would cost for someone to live and work in Uruguay. He also did some research about the costs of things in Salto, and this is the budget that they came up with. If we can raise $423, that should cover his rent, Carlos's rent. If we can raise $317, that should cover his groceries for the month. If we can raise $158, that should cover electricity, water, internet, those type of expenses. And that basically comes up to $953 a month. If we can raise $1,000 a month, Carlos can go to Salto and plant the church. And on top of that, there is a one-time cost for paperwork that's necessary for him to get into the country and have the proper visas and documentation to live and work in the country. It's going to cost about $700. So this is a plea for help. If you would like to support Carlos, talk to me. I can get you in touch with the people necessary to help Carlos go and do this work. And I believe in Carlos. Like, I give my stamp of approval on Carlos. I would love to go to Salto and help Carlos in some way. But how can you help? You can pray for Carlos. You can pray for the church in Uruguay. You can pray for the church in Salto specifically. You can pray for Clara. You can pray for the hearts of the people in Salto. Carlos is going to be meeting people and those who are searching for truth, those who are receptive to the gospel. Pray that Carlos will be able to interact with those people. You can help financially. You can give and support the work. You can give a one-time donation, or you can give a monthly support for Carlos. And you can come. You can go. Maybe I should say go. You can go and participate in the work. Carlos would love to have you. He'll help you get around the city, and you can help be involved in a hands-on way if you wanted to go do that. So there are opportunities for that kind of work. And along those lines, I wanted to show you this. Latin American missions have several campaigns that they're going to be doing this summer. And there is a group from this congregation that is planning to go to Chimbote, Peru at the beginning of June. This is the first campaign that's listed there. And so if you would like to join us and go to Chimbote, Peru, this is a medical mission trip. Talk to me, and it's not too late to sign up to be a part of that mission trip. But there is a group from us who is planning to go and be a part of that work. Now, what they're doing with these mission trips is they know where students who have graduated from the school have gone to work. And they want to bring a medical mission trip to Chimbote because there are people there who need medical help. They don't have the money to pay for it. They don't have insurance. They don't have the opportunities to see a dentist, okay? To have a root canal done because their teeth are a source of major pain, or to see a doctor, or to get a pair of eyeglasses because they can't see and they can't get it otherwise. And so there are going to be doctors of all kinds and doing all kinds of work, and all of it free, all of it as a part of the Church of Christ. And there are going to be Bible studies going on all day long, preaching going on every evening, evangelism taking place, and it's going to generate hundreds of contacts for the preachers who are already there in Chimbote that they can follow up on after the campaign is done and leaves. And so that's the goal of this campaign. If you can't go at that time, there are other mission trips as well that you can be a part of. You can look up Latin American missions online, find their mission trips, and be involved in some kind of mission work. I promise you this, if you were to go, it will transform your life. It will transform your heart, and it will give you a new vision for the kingdom of God. It will give you a new perspective on life, what it means to be a Christian, and how people are living in other countries, and God will use you. You don't have to speak Spanish to be able to go. There are jobs that people can do on these mission trips. I went on one in 1995. I haven't been on one since. So in 1995, I was translating in the pharmacy because I spoke a little bit of Spanish at that time. I was translating in the pharmacy. My sister Molly did not speak any Spanish. So she was washing people's hair with a shampoo that kills lice and then combing the lice out of people's hair. So that's what my sister did. So I would have preferred to have been in the pharmacy. But there are jobs. There are jobs for people to do. And everyone will be used in a vital and important way on these mission trips. I just want to end by saying this. Jesus said in Mark 16, 15, and 16, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. He who has believed and has been baptized shall be saved." And really, that's what all of this is about. We're going to offer an invitation this morning. If you would like to respond to this message in some way, we encourage you to come forward at this time as together we stand and sing the invitation song.